Today on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus Hard Rock and Metal Show, albums that were a complete disappointment, like follow-up albums that were a complete disappointment after a really strong debut. It's a little bit of a mouthful. We're going to see how it goes tonight. Stick around. You're listening to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus, changing rock history one podcast at a time. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus, our hard rock and metal circus show that we do live here on Rock Rage Radio Live on Facebook. If you don't know what the hell we're talking about, then you need to go to Rock Rage Radio Live on Facebook and follow that page, and you will get all the notifications about all the events and everything we do. So check that out there. Our website is LoudiniRockandRollCircus.com. Lots of cool stuff there as well. And shout out to our other affiliate, which is Classic 92.3. Thank you guys for being a part of the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus family. And we have Lily V6 with us tonight.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. That's very dainty. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. A little girly girl over there.
All right, that's enough. Our
resident rock and roll historian. So we're going to be having a good time tonight. Please, guys, if you are as passionate about great guitar-driven rock as we are, please, you could buy us a drink once a month, figuratively speaking, or maybe literally. I mean, this shit's expensive, and you can help us out by going to patreon.com/Lou Lombardi, patreon.com/Lou Lombardi. You got some cool perks there, but you also get to become a part of something really, really cool, and that is keeping the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus alive and kicking. Our topic for today is these follow-up albums that tanked after a band had a strong debut. So, we're going to kind of maybe examine that phenomena a little bit and talk about some of the big ones and some other albums that were really strong and then we just couldn't quite get our shit together afterwards. So that's the topic for tonight. If you are following us live on Rock Rage Radio Live, we are always interested in what you think. So please drop a question in there, a comment, a shout out. Tell us to go F ourselves. We accept it all. We don't really care. We have some great bands we're going to be playing for you guys tonight. We have State of Mind. We have Revolution Highway and Reign of Z. But we're going to kick off tonight's show with my latest single, Where Have All the Acid Queens Gone? Lou Lombardi on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.
See
That is my latest single. You can find out more about that. Hold on. That is my latest single, Where Have All the Acid Queens Gone? And you can check that out at LouLombardiMusic.com. Just go there and you can find all the stuff.
All the stuff.
Shout out to Chris Thunderwolf Dodson, Wolf's Customs. They do very cool painting of guitars and basses. So you want like a different kind of thing. You've got a guitar. You want like a crazy or a unique color scheme on, or a cool design or whatever. That is what they do. And you can go to, I believe it's wolfscustoms.com, and check out everything they've got going on. That Chris is the CEO, if you will, of that organization. Lily, you said we have some shout outs. We already got some people hanging out.
We've got so many people watching tonight, but couple of new ones. Pamela Mead, she says whoop. Tuck Shepard, what's up? Samir Khan wants you to prove to him that you're not Scott Ian.
I neither can confirm or deny.
We've got I'm gonna botch this name. Miyuki Ingrid Asai from Brazil. Bill Damiano is watching. Josh Behrens is watching. Mike Riley and Owen Harris has some 2 cents about anything Silverchair did after Frog Stomp.
You're probably. I think that actually, that was not one that I was thinking of.
But that's legit.
That's totally legit. That's too legit to quit.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of a follow-up.
Wow.
Can't touch this.
I don't
Not that anybody knows any of that stuff. You are listening to Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. LoudiniRockandRollCircus.com is a website. Throw us a bone over there on patreon.com/Lou Lombardi. Special request from our rapper friend, Loudini Rock and Roll Circus raps. Rapper P Nice wants to tell you, hit us up on Patreon. Rapper P Nice.
Wow.
You don't know Rapper P Nice?
I'm done. And it's time for me to go home.
That's my rap band.
That's
P
new.
Nice.
That's new.
Yo, I'm P Nice.
Anyway, I went to see Static X last night, as I'm sure everybody saw on my Facebook. Sold out show. They've been selling out everywhere. I went to review Static X.
Well, what is your review? Give us the...
My review is they did very well. They paid very nice homage to Wayne Static. But I was terrified of the singer actually wearing a Wayne Static mask during the entire show.
Creepy.
It was weird. And I did not see it coming. I wish somebody would have warned me. But it was kind of odd. But they did great other than that. Wednesday 13 was also there, and I love them. So check them out if you've never heard them. As well as Dope, Devil Driver, and Raven Black, who I know you like.
What did you like, Raven Black?
I loved them.
I think
she is super cute, and I don't necessarily like all of her props, but it was still fun.
Rapper P Nice even likes him.
Wow, and there it is.
So would you recommend people go check out Static X?
I think if you have a chance to see that show, you're going to love it. Literally, it's been selling out every show. I was worried, though, because Scranton PA's show canceled because the stage wasn't big enough. And I'm like, well,
I'm sorry. Where was the show again?
Jurgles.
It was at Jurgles.
Yeah, and I was worried because Jurgles' stage isn't that big either. So I'm like, oh, God, please don't cancel. But they did not cancel. So if you have a chance to see it, I recommend it. It's a fun show.
Okay. All righty. Lily's review of the Static X show. The singer, what's his name? Zero.
He's going by Zero.
Zero wears a Wayne Static mask.
Yeah, it was a little scary for me. I'm not a mask person anyway, but there that was.
Are you into Slipknot at all? Or?
Yeah, but I don't like their masks.
Oh, you don't like their masks. You like the music, but not the mask.
Yeah. I don't want to see it.
Well, they've been on the Howard Stern show saying that, groupies always ask them, no, keep the mask on.
No, I can't do that. I'd be like this.
ICP says the same thing.
Ew,
the chicks want them to keep the mask on.
Idiots.
Chicks. Yeah, I said chicks, all right?
You're allowed.
Deal. Deal.
This is our show, damn it.
I'm almost a senior citizen, so I can say chicks.
Out of here. Stop
I do get AARP now.
Oh, for a little change of pace, I'm going to go see Skinnerd on Saturday. So.
Skinnerd's innards. Really, Lily? Really,
Yeah.
Lily?
Yes.
So, what is your favorite Skynyrd song?
No.
So you don't even know Skynyrd song.
Yes, I
She's
do.
one of these people that like goes to see the best. And I love them. I was in a band with a singer who remained nameless, who showed up with a Yes T-shirt on, and we were like, "Name one Yes song."
Did he name the typical one?
This person could not name one Yes song. I did not say it was a he.
Oh, she.
I didn't say it was a she. In today's world, we cannot.
You said chick, so I don't even want to hear it.
We can. Well, I'm trying to get with today's world.
I hate to be typical, but it's
I'm
Freebird.
Yeah. Reverb?
Freebird.
Freebird.
I know that's typical of me to say,
I
but
got your free bird
that's the
right
one
here.
I like. And that's the only time it's appropriate to yell out, play Freebird at a show.
Is it an actual Skynyrd concert?
Yes. Please don't yell that at a Static X show.
Do we have do you have Skynyrd on your list as with any records? No? I don't know if you got into so we're talking about bands that just couldn't follow up. They put out a great record and I know you don't have some of these records, some of these bands I'm going to say back to you, I don't think are quite in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
Of what you like to listen to.
That might be legit.
So I will name some, and please guys don't throw stuff at your computer because some of these bands aren't. You guys would know who they are, but they're not typically like the kind of music we would play. But they were a big part. They all experienced this phenomenon. So we're going to talk. I'll throw some at you because I know this was a weird topic in terms of research.
Yeah, research was odd on this.
Some of these topics we put in,
You
you
had
hit
to
Google, and you get like 30 pages of like.
You had to
like,
dig for this.
This we had to do some digging, and we're not very good diggers. So
Depends on my day.
yeah. So it's just how it goes. So what do you got on your list? Let's crack one open here.
I'm going to go ahead and say Weezer's Pinkerton is one of the ones. If you don't know who Weezer is, American rock band formed in LA in 1992. When they did this album, they sort of went darker and more abrasive on the sound. It was a commercial failure at first and received mixed reviews. Of course, now it's a cult classic and everybody loves it. It's like the best emo album ever. But the backlash was so bad that the band actually took a hiatus from working. And even the release of their catchier second single didn't help boost sales, with the songs were El Scorcho, The Good Life, and Pink Triangle. Of course, their debut album was Weezer the Blue Album, and we all know Buddy Holly, Undone, Say It Ain't So, Only in Dreams, and My Name is Jonas.
Produced by Rick Ocasek, correct?
I believe so,
The first
yes.
one, yeah, and they did not have Rick on the second album.
Yeah.
And that can be a thing, switching producers. That
Yeah.
can really kind of like throw your game off.
And they switched the sound completely, which doesn't always work for a band's favor.
Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. It's like, do you have Beastie Boys on your list?
I do not.
Yeah, the same way with the follow-up album after their debut. It was the same thing. They changed their sound around, and they went with a more of a. I believe they worked with the Dust Brothers, and that sound hadn't really
Caught on
yet. Okay, so they changed from their sort of like rock rap kind of thing to more this like, it was very kind of cool. It was kind of experimental, kind of showcased the fact that they were forward thinking, trying to be a little bit more artistic with it. It didn't really go anywhere, but eventually it kind of all came back around. That sound kind of caught up with the times, and when they did their third album, it.
Back on track.
They kind of came back on track. So that can happen. What else you got on your list?
I also have The Killers, Sam's Town from 2006. If you don't know who they are, American rock band formed in Las Vegas in 2001, and they were one of the biggest bands of the 21st century and the most successful act out of Nevada. They've performed in over 50 countries, 6 continents, headlining venues like Madison Square Garden, Wembley, Glastonbury, the whole 9 yards. Now, their first album, their songs were, it was Hot Fuss, Mr. Brightside, Somebody Told Me, Smile Like You Mean It. These songs were all club favorites. Like, you could go to the club and dance to them, and everybody had fun, and it was very upbeat and happy. They were a little, for the second album, Sam's Town, though, they were a little too eager to hype up the album, calling it one of the best in the past 20 years. Kind of way off the mark on that. It quickly disappeared off the charts, and critics hated it. And we don't always agree with the critics, but it kind of sucked. So it was. I think they were way in over their head on it. Maybe they were just too excited to get a second album out. But the songs were When You Were Young, Bones, Read My Mind, and For Reasons Unknown. Very forgettable songs. If I wouldn't even. I didn't even know. I don't remember them.
That was one of the bands I wrote in the blog description for this. So you hear an amazing debut album by a band, and you can't wait to hear the follow-up. You're completely stoked when their next album comes out. You download it, only to discover that it just doesn't measure up to the greatness of the first album. Maybe it even downright sucks. And that was my feeling about the Killers. I was like, guys, I know I have a pretty eclectic taste in music, so I like bands like the Killers. I know they're not
fun though.
in everybody's wheelhouse, but I mean, I thought, oh my God, this band is really doing something very cool. They're another band that's kind of owes a little bit to Queen in the way they kind of do the stuff with the vocals and the songwriting and the kind of more orchestrated type rock. And I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I was like, what happened to these guys? Like they kind of like. It just kind of like it faded away, like because
like the coyote
record,
off the cliff.
Yeah, it just didn't. It didn't really happen for anyone.
I think it was pretty pretentious to say, oh, well, this is going to be the best album in the last 20 years. Stop that before it comes out. Don't say that.
I'm sorry, what was the name of that? The follow-up album?
The follow-up album for
so
Killers was Sam's Town.
Sam's Town?
Yes.
Like Sam's Club.
Like Sam's Club, but it's the town, not the club.
Not to be confused with Sam's Club. And the Beastie Boys album I was alluding to before was Paul's Boutique.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So what else you got on your list?
I'm going to say U2 and their album October from 1981. I hate to even give a description of U2, but Irish rock band from Dublin, formed in 1976. They were popular for their live performances. They're always outrageous and fun. They do elaborate tours. They decided with this album, however, to change what was already good to something completely different. It was solid rock tunes on the first album, which was Boy. October was filled with songs with religious and spiritual meanings, so they kind of took a different...
It's a darker, more introspective kind of record. They
tried to break into the Christian rock scene, and that wasn't really something to do at the time that they did it, and it turned the fans off completely. They were just like, no, we don't want to hear this, so... I'm not saying it's bad that they did that.
Actually, I would tell people to go back and give the record a second chance. There is actually some really cool songs on it, like Gloria, which is
Fire's good.
Yeah, a killer guitar work from Edge on that song. I love that record. I was a U2 maniac. I didn't care. They could have put out a record of farts, and I'd been like, oh my God, it's brilliant. And just in case you're an atheist and you're worried about it, it's not overtly Christian. Like it's not like Stryper.
It wasn't sort of the thing to do in 1981, though.
But yeah, you know what I mean. They had that kind of a Christian influence. And actually always have. That's been a kind of reoccurring theme.
Yeah, well, Bono thinks he's God, so sure.
But they have talked in different magazines about their spiritual beliefs. And in any case, October. And I was actually, that was a record that did come up in the little bit of information I could find. And quite frankly, I was shocked because I always thought that was a great record. I always liked it. So there you go.
That's because that's the kind of music
But remember, if Keith was here, I would say, I'm also the guy that likes the movie The Relic. So, there's no accounting for, you can't go by anything I like.
He likes to use that analogy whenever he doesn't like your choices.
Yes, yeah. But you like The Relic, okay. So anyway, so what else?
I like bad movies though. I'm gonna put The Darkness next because I actually really love this band. Their second album was One Way Ticket to Hell and Back, 2005. They were an English rock band formed in 2000, but they were still kind of jumping on that glam train from the 80s. Formed by brothers Justin and Dan Hawkins. They were renowned for their live shows, and jumped on the scene in a very 80s throwback sort of way. Were fun to watch perform. The songs were amazing. Unfortunately, critics kind of saw them as a joke band, kind of like Steel Panther is now. Once the second album came out, people were over them and the whole glam persona. I mean, it was 2000 or 2005. It's like kind of post-grunge.
Wait a minute. When did the first album come out?
2003.
I thought I remember that record. That wasn't a 90s album? Oh, man. This goes to show you like how funky memory.
And they were sort of dated, though, because they were doing the 80s.
And I know people compare, but they don't sound like the 80s.
I think they do.
They sound like to me, they sounded more like the 70s glam rock. I heard a lot of Mark Bolan and what they were doing. I heard Queen in what the lead singer. What's the singer's name?
Oh,
You know his
shit.
name?
Justin or Dan.
He has,
I don't know which one it is.
He has a really great voice. He's got a big voice, kind of like Freddie Mercury. I never really, to me, I thought they were more of a '70s glam kind of throw, not so much. I didn't hear any Rat or Poison or Bon Jovi with their. I heard more, like I said, the bands I was just mentioning, like T-Rex and bands like that. And what was the name of that follow up album again?
One Way Ticket to Hell and Back. And of course, the songs were One Way Ticket, Is It Just Me, and Girlfriend on that one. It was the second album to Permission to Land. With the songs I Believe in a Thing Called Love, Get Your Hands Off My Woman, Growing on Me, Christmas Time, and Lovely, or Love Is Only a Feeling. I can't read, apparently.
That's all right.
But I really do like that
overrated.
band. It is, unless you need to read your notes. I didn't wear my glasses.
If the book is good, they're going to make it to a movie anyway. So why read? It's stupid.
So why read?
Dumb.
Right.
Only idiots read. Let's play. Speaking of idiots,
Wow.
we're going to play another band. This band is not a band of idiots. This is a band I absolutely love. In fact, I'm going to on my Spotify right now. I'm going to click the little heart for these guys. This is Reign of Z, Reflections on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. Reflections by Reign of Z on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus, Hard Rock and Metal Circus Edition. You can go to reignofz.com. Great band, Pittsburgh, originally Pittsburgh based. I believe they are in LA. I don't know. Zosha's
in LA right now.
They're they're going big time. I just hope that they remember us little people.
Oh, they will.
Whenever as they continue to make it big. Great band. Wish them tons of success. I really hope that they blow up. I thought song was absolutely killer. I love the production on it. Great drum sound. Drum sound that reminds me a little bit, and I wonder if this is what they were going for a little bit. I mean, the song is very modern sounding, but the drum sound kind of took me back to that Pyromania Def Leppard drum sound. Sort of has that, Lynn drum kind of vibe to it. Really heavy riffs, great vocals, great lyrics. I mean, everything about it is amazing.
Their drummer has both his arms, though.
I thought you were going to say their drummer has no arms.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. So, do you ever see that that website? People post links to it all the time on Facebook. The Hard Times.
No.
And one of them was. It's always these joke art. They're not.
Is it kind of like The
fake.
Onion?
Yeah, kind of like that, but it's usually more like pop culture stuff. And one was a few weeks ago. It was like Def Leppard drummer cuts off other arm just to prove that he doesn't
need
that's
anything.
how great he is, or something like that. That he can play with no arms. So, anyways, Loudini Rock and Roll Circus, guys, welcome back. Please go to Patreon, patreon.com/Lou Lombardi. Throw us a bone. We do appreciate it. Shout out to Rock Rage Radio and Classic 92.3 for being affiliates and getting the word out and helping us spread the word about great guitar-driven rock. This is where you're going to hear bands just like Reign of Z and the other bands that we play right here. We are talking about those records, those bands that put out a record, and it was awesome, and then they just...
Those sophomore slumps.
They couldn't get it going again. What the heck? What the heck, guys? Huh? What's the matter with you? So, you got a few more there on your list?
I do. I'm going to talk about Candlebox now. American rock band formed in Seattle, Washington in 1990. Their second album was Lucy, which came out in 1995. Not that great, not even that memorable. To tell you the truth, when someone told me about that today, I said I didn't even remember that album at all. Because their first album was awesome. It had the Far Behind, You, Blossom, Arrow, those types of songs, which were all very popular, and I like to hear at the shows, which I'm going to see them again, too.
Awesome.
But the other one, the track listing, I don't even know any of these songs. Simple Lessons, Drowned, Lucy, Best Friend. I don't know any of these. And it didn't sell nearly as much as the first album, and they play everything from the first album anyway. So.
Of course. Yep, Lucy by Candlebox, a total
it went
Caesar.
bye.
Yep. Things did this happen. Sometimes, first of all, guys, and
Can you talk?
Let me say that again. You should follow if you're. I know you're not a big YouTube person, but you should seriously follow Stevie T. Stevie T's he's like Jared Deans. He's a heavy metal comedian.
Okay.
It's really good. So that he does stuff like it. He gets
I've been
all the time, makes goofy sounds. Anyhow,
I've been listening or watching YouTube more.
Okay, cool.
Lately, much to my dismay.
The struggle is real to follow up an album. It's like the pressure is insane on these bands. A couple things you have to keep in mind, especially on a really strong debut. These bands probably wrote these songs a few years before these songs made it onto some kind of major release that was going to make it to the radio. So, and they were also playing these songs live a lot. So they had years, literally, tweak them around, adjust them, fix them up, tweak them, say, no, I don't like that, put this here, put that there, mess around with the arrangements. So by the time they get to the studio, they get their quote-unquote big break, those records are really honed really, 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 really well. Then it's time to do a follow-up.
And it's supposed to be just as good, if not better.
It's supposed to be just as good, if not better. That's so no pressure.
No, of course
not at all. You know, if it sold 10 million, it better sell 20. No pressure. So you have that on. You've got the pressure on you, and then you don't have songs that you've been playing for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. No. You've got songs that you've got to write and get out maybe within 18 months.
So you have less time.
Way less time.
To make more money.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's really freaking hard. It's something that is a problem for bands. It's a situation. It's a totally real thing in the industry. And I think the move towards shorter records like EPs or just putting out singles is kind of smart for your creative stimuli, your creative mechanism in your brain, because you can really perfect one thing and get it really, really good. And there's not as much pressure. So if you put out 6 singles throughout a year, well, you know, you've got an EP worth of stuff, and you've had the time to really concentrate on one song and get it really, really good, and play it for friends, have other musicians come in and help you tweak it around, maybe work with a producer, and just nail that fucker. Then there's just not as much pressure. Also, the production nowadays is easier because you could put together a home studio and pretty much fool any person, any John Q. public out there into thinking that you went to LA and, you know, it's some big studio. You could get very, very, very close to where most people listening will not know the difference. Musicians, other people in the industry pick up on stuff like that a lot easier, but there's many, many records that are produced under very, on very tight budgets that sound absolutely fantastic. A lot of it is just in the listening. So this era, the album era, when that was like a really big thing, there was a lot of pressure on bands to follow that up. This is why I'm highly suspicious of some of these bands that seem to kind of like put out great records.
Crank records out every year.
I always wondered, like, kind of what's going on there. Are they buying songs? There was a lot of that happened in the early days of music, where people would sell a song to somebody for $100 or $200 or $500, and that person will put their name on it. So who knows really what happened with some of these other artists that didn't seem to have this issue. There could be a little bit of shenanigans. I love conspiracy. I'm a conspiracy kind of guy. So
can you tell?
I like to go that way with stuff like that. So it can be tough. And sometimes some of these bands do come back, after, they've struggled for a couple records, and then they come back with something really, really big. Did you want to talk about Guns N' Roses?
Yes.
Let's talk about Guns N' Roses, because this is an example.
That's definitely on my list. Okay, so Guns N' Roses. Let me find my notes here. If you don't know who Guns N' Roses is, American hard rock band from LA, formed in 1985. They earned the nickname of the most dangerous band in the world due to their rebelliousness and hedonism, and they are the 41st best-selling artists in history. Then there's the album GNR Lies. There's that. It's a pieced-together collection of 4 new acoustic tracks for a hard rock band, and an earlier faux live EP that had been recorded in the studio and included covers. It was not live. Not not at all. But Patience was the only single, and One in a Million, the song One in a Million, accused the band of racism and homophobia. And of course, Rose stated that he was pro-heterosexual and not a racist, and he used the N term just for people who were a problem in your life, not for black people. So not only did this album sort of go ho-hum, and the covers on there too, I think I mentioned it, but it was covers, acoustic. Let's get them in trouble because they, of course, were controversial.
Was that the record that had I Used to Love Her?
Yes, it is.
You're right. There's a couple of like kind of cool tunes, like Patience
There
and I
are.
Used to Love Her, and their is there a remake of
Mama Kin from Aerosmith.
Is Hair of the Dog on that, or is that on?
I think that's a
Spaghetti?
different one. I think that's
That's on the
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti
Yeah, I
instead.
didn't see that one on this one, but yeah. So someone actually said if they were together enough at the time to create a successful acoustic album following the Savage Appetite for Destruction, which was amazing, that would have been the most impressive thing in rock history. But they didn't do that. So.
Appetite for Destruction is all killer, no filler. That is.
Yep.
That is just like even the stuff that didn't make the radio. It's just because there was already so much Guns N' Roses on the radio that they just couldn't play like they just couldn't play the whole album, but they played a lot of them.
Yeah. So.
And
that was 1988 that GNR Lies came out. Appetite for Destruction was just the year before that. So that's an example of no time to create music. But
pressure to put up, maybe try to get something out. Yeah.
But Appetite had Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, Night Train, It's So Easy, Mr. Brownstone, My Michelle, and Rock a Queen, which is almost impossible to follow up, really.
Yeah.
Like,
it's an iconic album.
Yeah.
It's as iconic of an album as, Led Zeppelin 1. It's as iconic of an album as Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall or one of these like really, big records still played today. I was talking to my friend Matt Muckle a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me that like he's got drum students that come in and they want to play that record.
That's great, though. Like,
this is
even
all these
now.
years later, yeah. So it is a kind of totally enduring. It kind of became an instant classic in many ways. What was so interesting about that record when it came out was it's before grunge. It was 87, right?
Yes.
It's before grunge. It's a few years before grunge, but it does not sound like Britney Fox or Firehouse or
It's
Warrant
hard.
or any of that. It is a really serious rock album, right to the core. The production, the attitude, the passion, everything in it. I mean, other than you got to look at like Van Halen at that time had traded David Lee Roth for Sammy Hagar, had gone more pop. Motley Crue was off to a real kick-ass start in the beginning, but then they really kind of went through a phase. They really
trickled.
couldn't get their shit together. So they were the ones who were kind of holding the flag for like, let's keep it dangerous. And they were kind of like not able to because they had so many internal problems. Guns N' Roses comes along and it's like, it's on like Donkey Kong. Here we go.
One of the best rock albums of all time.
So they do that record. And the Spaghetti, that comes out after that.
That's after Lies.
So, and those two records, but they release Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. And they re-explode.
They come back.
They come back, new, kind of a revamp sound, a little more, and I will say it, a little more pop-style production. Even like they were able to maintain their edge, but they definitely brought in a little bit more, kind of like that bigger, more radio-friendly type production to it. And, they were kind of able to kind of reinvent themselves. And
they effed up again.
Of course they did, because it took 11 years to release Chinese Democracy.
Which was awful.
I don't know if it's awful or not. I haven't heard it.
I don't like it. I did not like their single that they released for it. I didn't like any of it. I was super disappointed. But that's just Guns N' Roses' way. Maybe soon they'll come up with something killer again. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
But that is a great example. There is some other bands that were less. Well, not so much in our genre here, but I just kind of want to throw out of bands that because this was a problem in the 90s. Bands would put out these records and they would be all the rage for a year or two. They'd have song after song after song on the radio. Everybody would say, this is the next big thing. And then crickets. They would do another record and like it would like not do anything. And a couple bands like that. And I know neither one of these bands or Lily or I are really big fans of. Well, actually, this band I hate. Hootie and the Blowfish. They put out that record. It was ginormous. It blew up. Like
Super poppy, super
everybody
fun.
was sick of it. You know, I would totally say I hated it, but it was huge. They could not follow up.
Nope.
They could not do it. Another band that did the same kind of thing happened to was the Gin Blossoms.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That first record exploded.
Good
Hey
one.
Jealousy's all those songs. Huge. Could not get arrested after that. They put out another record. What had happened in between the two records was the guy that had written all the guy and the guitar player in the band that was the songwriter. They fired him because he was an alcoholic and a drug addict. They fired him, and they could not. None of the rest of the guys could write songs like that. They couldn't pull it off. So that
was a 90s thing then.
Yeah, that was a nice. It was, I know that Jagged Little Pill was not Alanis's first album. She had those records she did in Canada when she was like child actor and everything.
Yeah.
But let's call that her first like major release.
Her first major release.
But her follow-up records, like she had singles here and there, and she's able to kind of keep a career going. But she never did anything that equaled Jagged Little Pill.
No.
That's one of those records where
because she wasn't angsty anymore.
every song is very, very good. Everything came together. There's some great guest musicians on it. Fleas on the album. It's a great production. You know, again, I believe that was a lot of help from a lot of people in years and years and years, kind of building up to that. That's another. So there's some examples of artists that aren't necessarily in the hard rock or rock and roll kind of arena, but
They still matter.
They still had this experience where they just could not. In the era when people still cared about albums. We are probably talking to people who are a little bit older tonight. Most of the people in their late teens and early 20s probably don't own an album or don't care about albums.
So sad.
But that was how music was released. And it was very important that your next record be really good. You go a few decades before that, record labels would invest in bands and understand that the first few albums weren't going to do anything. They knew that it was like, okay, let's get them out there. Let's get them touring. Let's put some money. So it was like they would look as more of a long-term investment and hoping that would ultimately pay off. And a lot of times it didn't. Actually, more times it did not. But there were acts that did pay off. Acts like Pink Floyd, who had a little bit of a splash when they first came out in the mod scene, but it went a long time before they really kind of came into their own with metal and, of course, Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall and things like that. That took a while. So there was this idea of investing in a band and kind of just letting them kind of do their thing and kind of see where it goes. And, by the time we get to the eras we're talking about here, the 80s and 90s, it was really important that you hit it hard pretty soon. Especially by the time the 90s came around. No, but people were getting the idea of these development record deals that had kind of started, that had really faded away, and they really wanted you to come out of the gate. And everybody was expecting, now indie is big now, but in the 90s people were expecting you to already have a really big following before they even gave you a dime. And this was because of bands that were around, bands like Fugazi and Ani DeFranco, and some of these artists that were able to create a big kind of indie following before a record label. So the record labels looked at that and thought, well, why should we develop these bands when bands are now doing it themselves? So that became a thing. So more and more pressure got put on musicians. So you would have these acts like the Gin Blossoms or Hootie and the Blowfish or whoever that would be touring for years on those 10 songs. that was their set. And after 10 years, those songs better be completely right. I mean, if you can't get it right in 10 years, then
go work at the convenience store.
Yeah, I know. And that happened to a very famous band from Pittsburgh, the Clarks. And I know a lot of people don't like the Clarks. They're not their style of music or whatever. But that was the same thing with them. And do you ever hear the Clarks' second album?
Nope.
Exactly. The first album was really big around here, but they did get, I believe they broke the top 40 with some of the songs on their debut album, but they never, it just never. So this is just a phenomenon that happens. It's kind of interesting, but I just wanted to kind of fill you guys in on a little bit on some of the theory behind it, because there is some reasons why it isn't just chance or just popularity, and sometimes it is the music changes too. That does happen.
Yeah, that's definitely
does
a
happen.
thing.
What else you got on your list?
I put Jet on my list. I know a lot of people don't like Jet, but I like Jet, so I don't really care. Their second album, Shine On, from 2006. It had 15 forgettable tracks. The album got 0 out of 10 stars, and after their world tour, they took some time off. Their first album wasn't totally amazing, but it was I loved it. Like, their songs were fun, like I Love Cold Hard Bitch, who doesn't? Are You Gonna Be My Girl? And that came out in 2003. The album was Get Born. Their song, Are You Gonna Be
Bought
My
it,
Girl?
owned it. Yep.
Of course, was on video games, soundtracks, commercials, like everything.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yes.
dun. It's you got to give the Devils. It is a kind of ripoff of Lust for Life.
It sure is.
By Iggy Pop. I will, but we covered Jet in my last band. I loved playing it. We did Cold Hard Bitch. We did it in a medley with It's a Long Way to the Top to Rock and Roll. If you want to rock and roll by AC/DC.
Nice.
So go figure that. But yeah, no, I thought it was great, and right, they couldn't. From what I understand, they had addiction issues.
Yeah, there was
a lot
that.
of partying, and
well, they played more than 200 shows the first year their album came out. So and they were touring with the Rolling Stones. So there you go. That could cause problems too.
It might.
But yeah, I mean, they just it got off to a horrible start. It was like I said, 15 for very forgettable tracks on that album. And even the critics hated it. People hated it. And I mean, do you even remember any of the songs?
No.
Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is, Rip It Up, and Shine On. No. Those are the songs.
No, I have their first album,
which is awesome.
And I loved it.
I don't care what anybody says.
Absolutely.
Fight me.
We're gonna rock out with Revolution Highway. We played these guys last week. I can't get enough of them. Revolution Highway, Young and Wild, on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. That's Revolution Highway, everybody. Young and Wild. Like Wild Stallion. Right? No?
Right.
Right. Well, bloody right.
Oh, shit.
Okay. So let me go ahead and give you a little bit. We opened the show with me. You can go to LouLombardiMusic.com. We had our longtime favorites, Reign of Z. After that, reignofz.com. And that was Revolution Highway. You go to GrooveYardRecords.com/Revolution Highway. We're going to be closing up here in a few minutes with State of Mind, a new track from them. I believe the ones we've played from Revolution Highway, Reign of Z, and the one we're going to play from State of Mind are all ones I don't believe we've played on the show before. So we have some regulars here. I don't play new bands every week because if I do that, then do you ever get to hear these songs? Like, you kind of need to hear the songs a few times, especially when you don't know the bands, right?
Agreed.
You can't just hear something once and so
one and done. None
so
of that.
it's not so if you say, well, play some other band, we do. We start working in other bands as we go, but I do like to each week play something that's somewhat familiar so that you guys can get a handle on what's out there and you can learn to really kind of fall in love with that. Because, hey, look at it this way. Most people don't fall in love on the first date, right? Got to get together a few times.
Oh, I don't know.
So that's what we're doing. We're introducing these bands a few times so you can, in time, get to really fall in love with their music. We've been talking tonight about these debuts, or excuse me, these follow-ups to these debuts that just took a shit. Just like, just
in the crapper.
Yeah, they just went right in the crapper. And there's several of them. There's one you haven't mentioned, and I'm not sure if you're going to mention it. If you don't, I will throw it in there in a minute. But we're going to just do a couple more. We're going to have to get out of here tonight. Please, guys, don't forget, it's patreon.com/Lou Lombardi. This shit's expensive, and we could use your help. So what do you got? You got anybody else you want to talk about?
I got one more, but I don't know if it's the one you're talking about. I'm going to talk about Meatloaf's Dead Ringer from 1981. Technically, it's the third album, but we're not going to count that crap he did with that chick from Hair. So we're going to count that as number 2, Dead Ringer. Follow up to Bad Out of Hell, which is obviously a great album. Bad Out of Hell, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Paradise by the Dashboard Light. You took the words right out of my mouth. If you don't know who Meatloaf is, it's American singer-songwriter, record producer, and actor known for his wide-ranging operatic voice and theatrical live shows. At the peak of his career, he was actually doing a lot of drugs, killing himself on tour, getting into legal battles with his former partner. And when it came to follow up Bat Out of Hell, he developed a psychological singing block, and Steinman ended up recording what would become Bad for Good on his own. So when it was, by the time Meatloaf was ready to sing again, the moment had passed and American audiences were no longer interested, and his career would remain sort of bleak until he came to his senses and kissed and made up with Steinman. So
people don't realize how many songs Jim Steinman has out there.
Yes.
There's an Air Supply song.
Really?
Okay, this is a little funny. Sharon and I were partying on 4th of July. And we're just listening to this Air Supply song came on, and I'm going like, God damn it! That sounds like it could be a Jim Steinman song. And I'm sorry, guys, it escapes me at the moment, but I googled it, and God damn it, if it wasn't. I mean, do you know the song? The Turnaround Bright Eyes.
Yeah.
Every now,
yeah. I knew that was.
That's Jim
I knew that was
Steinman.
him.
It's All Coming Back to Me Now by Celine Dion.
I knew that
That's
was him.
Jim Steinman.
But you can tell he's got a.
There's a certain
thing.
style, yeah, and then it does all these cool chord progressions and stuff like that. The song, I do not know the name of the album, but it has the song. You mentioned the album, Bad for Good. The Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through was a big hit for Jim Steinman. Jim Steinman actually sang because Meatloaf didn't come and do any of the singing on what was supposed to be the follow-up.
Yeah.
So, right. So, yeah, he just kind of like floundered for a long time. But he did coast a very long time on Bad Out of Hell.
Yeah, which he could easily.
That album is like, that is, when you say masterpiece, that is one of those amazing records that just, kind of keeps on giving. You can go back to that record again and again and again and always really enjoy it. It's got kind of something for everybody. It's got enough pop in it. It's got enough rock in it. It's got some of the
it's
the song,
epic.
The song "Bad Out of Hell" is like almost like progressive. So it has different parts. Even "Paradise by the Dashboard
That
Light.
song, if you get me drunk enough, I will sing it on karaoke night. But you have to get me drunk enough. That's a lot of drinks.
So we got to get Lily out to
I'll do a duet.
Drinks. Yes, and we'll do it. So So that's the last one on your
list? That's the last
one.
one.
Okay, all right. So
I'm assuming it's not the last one on your list.
I want to bring up one. I have to change this music in the background because this is.
Is it driving you insane?
Oh my God! I'm going to have an epileptic fit.
But with your ears.
Yeah. All right. This is a record I can't believe you didn't mention.
Oh, I didn't because I thought you were going to. That's why I didn't put it on my list.
I call shenanigans.
You want to see?
It's "Don't Look Back" by Boston.
I didn't think you were actually going to mention it.
The only song on that record that broke was "Don't Look Back." The first Boston album, the self-titled, the original Boston album, it's like some of these other records. It's like "Appetite for Destruction."
Every single song on that album was on the radio.
Yeah, every song made the radio. Every single song. I mean, amazing song. Song after song in there is classic. And Boston is one of those bands that, because of Brad Delph's singing, was virtually impossible to cover. Very few. They're very hard to pull off good covers of that. So that really set them apart. And Tom Scholl's production and very unique and distinctive guitar sound really took everybody by storm. That record came out, every guitar player wanted to know how was he getting that sound, what was he doing, blah blah blah. Everybody was enamored with the songs. Nobody could believe what the kind of singer Brad Delph was. It's like inhuman what he could do with his voice. I would put him there with Freddie Mercury in terms of just pure singing chops. Just unbelievable, unstoppable. It was a juggernaut, and then
they came up with that,
and they never really did anything. Like "Don't Look Back" was like okay. The song "Don't Look Back" was "Don't Look Back." The song itself felt like kind of a leftover track from the first album that they didn't think was quite good enough to put on the first album, but still was kind of a decent song.
Yeah,
So it made it onto the next record.
Well, here's the comparison. So the first album made 17 million. This album made 7. or records,
17 million in 19 what was it 76
something like
75?
that. Yeah.
So that's a lot for back then. As well as then in the early 80s they released Third Stage, which is another. They had a minor hit with Cool the Engines and Amanda, which is like I think a horrible song. Always felt like when they put that record came out that the radio stations had been waiting for a new Boss album for so long that like just out of like exhaustion they played those two songs, but they really were just like just total shit, just garbage. So
And there it is.
yeah. So that's what I would say. So we've got the Beastie Boys, the Killers, U2, The Darkness, Candlebox, Jet, Guns N' Roses, Meatloaf, and Boston all on the list. We didn't talk about some of these records where they weren't the first album, but they were a follow-up to a really big album. Again, guys, it's really hard to follow up something like Rumors.
You're right.
I mean, I don't really know what people thought they would do with Tusk. You have got to be realistic. I mean, even the Beatles with Abbey Road, the White Album is not the album that, not Abbey Road. The White Album is not nearly the album, even though it's a double album, is not nearly the album that Sgt. Pepper's was.
Right.
It's a cool record. And there's a lot of like classic stuff on there, but Sgt. Pepper's is Sgt. Pepper.
Draw the Line, Aerosmith.
Right.
Even Done with Mirrors, Aerosmith. Horrible.
They couldn't, and some of these bands go up and down. They'll do one and then they'll have they kind of go to sleep for a few albums. And Aerosmith resurrected their career.
They did.
But they did something that I think a lot of these other bands are doing and don't admit. They brought in outside songwriters and people to work with them. They work with people like Desmond Child and people like that to kind of revamp their sound for the 80s and eventually the early 90s. But, I mean, it's very difficult for lightning to strike twice. I mean, Springsteen, exploded with Born to Run, but it was like 10 years until Born in the USA. Mm-hmm. Not that those records in between if you're a Springsteen fan, aren't cool records, but it's just really
very
really
different.
Very hard to do. very hard to do. And there are bands that have like a slow and steady. They're always the records are all really really good. But I mean, and there are some bands that did put out consistently good records, even though at the time people didn't like everything they did. A good example is Led Zeppelin, who really every record is very very good.
Yeah.
There's great material on every record. Even like Led Zeppelin at their worst is still awesome. Like the Beatles.
I kind of feel like there's something for everybody on Zeppelin albums. On everyone.
And a lot of people did not like the third album because it was a little more acoustic, and they had, they wanted to change it up a little wee bit.
Don't cry.
Wah, wah.
I'd like to see you do it.
And the record that gets the most accolades is Physical Graffiti.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, Zoso and
Zoso's great.
All of these records, they're amazing records. They're all really good. It's Led Zeppelin, for Christ's freaking sake. Let's go ahead and throw some shout outs before we get out of here because we have to go party.
Yay! Charlie Doyle, Terry Lee Baker said, shout out to you both at my favorite local band, Going Hard Electric Revolution. Bill Damiano still on. Snody Heemskirk. Good evening, Lily and Lou. Greg Fruwald, hello from Northern Ontario. Michael Goltz. Sorry, I said it wrong. Again, because I always do. James Gentry is watching. Jerry Colburn gave us the metal horns. John Wilhelm, smiley face. Sean Donahue, hi. He said hi to me.
Can I say
Barb,
hi to Sean too?
you can. Barb Hilashevsky is on. I think I always say your name wrong, girl. I'm sorry. Let me see. All the same people talking. Terry asked who the band was, but then she got it. Diana Swens. It's been awesome. Love you guys. David Lara, how you doing? Tracy Sampson. Rachel Cruz from Rock Rage Radio's on watching.
Rachel.
And Samuel Sabato. I don't know what you mean not wearing top fun. I don't know what that means. I'm not taking my top off. Not on this show. And that is it. That's what we have.
Guys, you've been listening to Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. Our website is loudinirockandrollcircus.com. Please check back often. We are going to run over to my private group and hang out for a little bit. I want to talk that this week something very cool in music history went down, and that was the David Bowie Mick Ronson began work on what eventually became the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars. And this after show is very, very loose, so we're going to maybe talk a little wee bit about that if we get around to it. But you can, if you want to hang out with us in the after show, want to hear the real dirty jokes, hear the stuff we won't say on the air, go to LouLombardiRocks.com. You can get in there. Don't forget to hit our Patreon. It's in the links here. It's in the comments. And Lily, any parting shots before we get the hell out of here tonight?
There are still tickets for sale for the Glen Sobel Goon Squad show on next Thursday at the Subalpine Club. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, Lou's going to get his this after the show today. And I will be going live at Skinnerd at CMAC in Canandaigua, New York on Saturday.
Shout out to Revolution Highway and Reign of Z for being part of the show tonight. As well as this last band we're going to play. This is State of Mind, and you can find them at reverbnation.com/State of Mind 81. Guys, check them out. We'll catch you guys all on the next Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.